I hope you're having a very nice morning. I'm not sure why there's this disconnect between that and this. Something's wrong with this. But we'll give it a try and see because I want to read you another book before I head out into this great, beautiful, cool morning of what's going to be a very hot day. So the book I'm going to read is called The Hatseller and the Monkeys. And I think it's a book from Africa. Um, the author is Baba Wague Diakite. And remember we talked about the artwork? Last night we did Cool Time Song, which had those beautiful, bright colors, which is what you'd expect for hot summer or cool African evening. This has different kind of art, and it has borders. Remember we talked about that the other day? How some of them don't just do the wonderful drawings on the inside, but they do these really kind of elaborate and really cool borders. These look like they're monkeys. And this is just the dedication page. And it says, this book is dedicated to my two daughters, Penda June and Amina Marie, and to all the children of the world. They are our standing feet of tomorrow. I like that expression. Let's see, copyright 1999. And I'm just seeing if there's anything else to read. But it's a West African folktale, retold and illustrated by Baba Wague Diakite. Okay, The Hatseller and the Monkeys. Here we go. I was looking a little bit because there's a book from when I was young that seemed to be about a hat seller and monkeys, and I don't know if it's the same one. First page, and more of that interesting border. And this page show you that. Ba Musa the hat seller was a joyful man. He traveled from town to town selling hats, which he piled high on his head. I think I did read this book, but it was different drawings when I was little. He manun nin koi kadi sa, he sang, which means, what a wonderful business hat selling is. Imagine being such a cheerful man. I like that that's the first line of the book. Ba Musa the hat seller was a joyful man. When I've taken writing classes, they sometimes have us look at the first sentence of a book or a short story. That's one. I like this one. It draws you in. It's simple, but you're in there. And there's the joyful man with the hats on his head and the hats on his arms. Imagine selling hats and you pile them up on your head. What a great way to travel around with you with your own little shop. Ever since he was a little boy, Ba Musa made and sold hats. His grandparents and his own parents were hat makers, and they taught him to do this at a young age. After each harvest, the whole family would venture out to the fields to collect rice stalks from which they made wide-brimmed dibiri hats to sell. During the rainy season, they embroidered close-fitting fugulan caps with intricate patterns of brightly colored threads. It looks like the border's a little different here. And there's a little chicken right there. Oh, I'm not sure if you saw this page very well. What interesting drawings where the lines are white. Usually the lines are the dark part and the background is dark, but the lines are white. That's interesting. Drawing with white ink on a dark colored background. Through his joyful spirit and hard work, Ba Musa had become very well known in the neighboring towns. Wherever he arrived, oh wow, look at that. Wherever he arrived, with his hats piled on his head, children would follow him and sing along as he sang his favorite song, He Manun ni koi kadisal, He Manun ni koi kadisa, He Manun ni koi kadisa. This is the story of how Bamusa learned an important secret for success. One day, Bamusa heard that a great festival was to take place in a neighboring town. There, he could sell more hats than he'd ever sold before. He spent many days making hats for this event. To get to the festival by evening, he began his journey in the early morning, but he was in such a hurry he did not eat any breakfast. Halfway to town, Bamusa grew so tired and hungry he had to stop and rest under a shady mango tree. He unloaded the hats from the top of his head and put them on the ground next to him. Then he covered his face with one as a blind shade to keep the sun from his eyes. You do that with your arm sometimes. You go like this with your little arm over your eyes. Bamusa soon fell asleep and began to snore loudly. Coo-too-too-too, coo-too-too-too. Little did Bamusa know that the fruit from this tree attracted monkeys. Bamusa's snoring alerted them to his company. Excuse me while I give Gabby more food. This, my dear, will be it. And after this, we will go outside and stay outside on this beautiful day. Sorry, little guy. But that'll be the last interruption, hopefully, for a while. And here, once again, is Bamusa taking a nap with the hat on his head and the hat's next to him. And look what's in the tree, the shade of which he's taking a nap in. But he doesn't know what's in there. As usual, monkeys are very curious and very smart. And they crept down from the tree, yoli, 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 quietly, 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 and sneaked around Bamusa. Being attracted to the colorful hats, each monkey selected one. Then they climbed back up the tree and imitated Bamusa, covering their faces and snoring. Carry tay tay tay, carry tay tay tay. A lot of different sounds in this book for our American ears. When the monkeys heard this, they answered him. Hoo, hoo, hoo. Bamusa looked up and realized what had happened, but he was so hungry he could not think clearly what to do. He raised his arms in the air. Cha, 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 he yelled. The monkeys stared down at him and replied, Hoop, 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 shaking their arms wildly. They're copying him. Here's a smaller drawing of what they're doing. This almost looks like a woodcut, like we used to do in my art class, where you would take wood or a piece of linoleum and you'd carve into it with a chisel the design or the drawing that you wanted to do. And then you would put ink on it, and all of the elevated places took the ink, and when you pressed it on paper, you made a drawing, a piece of art, an ink block print is what we called it. And that looks like what they've done here. And the carved part would be the indented part, or the white part that won't get the ink. So it's like doing a artwork in relief, that's called, where you remove the non-painting, and what's left is the drawing, the art. I think that's called in relief, artwork in relief. Could be wrong, but that's what I remember. There's another one of those prints. Bamusa threw a dead branch at them, hoping to scare them off. But the monkeys merely threw leaves at him in return. Hey, Munchie. Did Munchie come for a little book reading? She's got my... Then Bamusa picked up a stone and threw it up into the tree. The monkeys picked mangoes and threw them down at Bamusa. Yes, that's a Munchie. Munchie says it's time for her either biscuits or meal. But we're more than halfway, so let's continue. I want to see what happens to this Hatseller. By the time Bamusa was faint with hunger, by this time Bamusa was faint with hunger, and so he collected the fruit and sat down to eat. He ate until his stomach was full. Now Bamusa could think clearly. Now he knew what he must do. What do you suppose that is? What would you do? I'm not sure what I would do. I don't know if I could climb a tree and get the hats from the monkeys. They're better climbers than me, and they have plenty of time to do it, and they're having fun with this. So what could he do? Well, he's thinking, but I think that nice meal he had and the fact that he's not hungry anymore has given him an idea. What is the idea? We're about to find out, I hope. Brilliant man. He removed the only hat he had left from his head and shook it up in the air at the monkeys, shouting, "He mannin, he mannin." All the monkeys did the same, grabbing the hats off their heads, howling, "Hoo, hoo, hoo, hoo." Bamusa dropped his hat taut to the ground, and all the monkeys dropped their hats taut, 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 taut. Brilliant. He noticed that the monkeys were copying, so he did what he wanted them to do, and they copied it. Without losing a second, Bamusa collected all his hats, stacked them back on top of his head, and rushed to his destination. He arrived not a moment too soon. Oh, look at this. Oh. So great was Bamusa's... I'm on the wrong side of the page. Let me show you the picture. So great was Bamusa's happiness from his recent luck that his spirit of goodwill helped him sell all of his hats. And so it was that Bamusa learned from the monkeys, it is with a full stomach that one thinks best, for an empty satchel cannot stand. I think a little Munchie's trying to teach us the same thing, that she can't think straight being this hungry. One second. Stay somewhere, Munchie. Don't keep walking back and forth. Sorry for all the interruptions. Next time I'll do it where there's no cats around. So great was Bamusa's happiness. I know we read this, but I'm going to read it without interruption. From his recent luck that his spirit of goodwill helped him sell all of his hats. And so it was that Bamusa learned from the monkeys, it is with a full stomach that one thinks best, for an empty satchel cannot stand. Okay, that's the book, and that's the last page. And then um, it's true, there are other variants of the Hatseller and the monkeys. Caps for Sale, that's the one that I read um, when I was young. It's first published in 1940, and we probably read that when you were little too, when your mom was little too. Um, okay, well, that's that. I won't go any longer. And if there's, uh, well, no, I will. I'll read this. It's going to be a minute, though, because it's author's note. I first heard the story of Bamusa and the monkeys in my home country of Mali in Africa. The Fulani of Mali are by tradition cattle herders, and so naturally they are also milk sellers. A Fulani milk seller came to our family compound daily to sell his milk, to sell us milk. One particular day he arrived wearing two wide-brimmed cone-shaped hats called dibiri. The children laughed, but the Fulani man said that with two hats stacked, one gets twice as much protection from the sun and heat. My uncle, however, was reminded of the hat seller story, and that evening he told it to us. There are many Bamusa stories in our culture, but this one is popular as monkeys are always a favorite of both children and adults because of their humorous antics. In fact, Koroduga, who is the clown in mask dances, is represented by a monkey face. That was on the last page that we had here when I was trying to figure out what his coat was. Next to last page. I wasn't sure if those were leaves or bananas or what, but see the monkey face. And he's an entertainer at the dances. Let's go back to the last page where he's writing about it. He's the clown in mask dances. Animals and man have been and still are instructors to each other in learning life's lessons. In this story, the monkeys cause the man much difficulty, but in the end, they teach him that it is only after eating well that one can think clearly and enjoy success. In many African tales, one must sometimes suffer before there is happiness. This helps prepare us for life. From childhood, we expect both happiness and some difficulty. This then teaches us patience and perseverance. Stories are told not only as entertainment, but they give us knowledge on how to conduct ourselves and live among others in nature. I grew up listening to adults tell me proverbs and stories as advice to guide me through my own life. Teaching our children and setting a good example must truly be a duty for every adult, as children are our reflection. And then there's a column, Relatives of the Hatseller and the Monkeys. This popular piece of folklore has been told in various countries around the world, including Egypt, Sudan, Mali, India, and England. And the theme of a peddler having his wares ransacked by monkeys while taking a nap was a popular motif in European art during and after the Middle Ages. Other variants of the Hatseller and monkeys can be found in the following books. Eurasian Folk and Folk Tales, editor I.F. Bulatkin. African Wonder Tales by Francis Carpenter. Caps for Sale by Esfir Slobodkina. That's the one from when I was young. Fairy Tales from the British Isles. And then the final note I should have read first. Bamusa's song is pronounced I Ma Nu Kin Kong Ka Disa. Aimanu is both an expression of joy and a plea for help. Okay, well, that was a very good book, and the lesson is a good one, that not only that we do better when we're not hungry, but that we learn from animals. And I'm learning from these two right here. This little munchie who came here, who I was annoyed with for a second, but she just wanted to be part of the reading like she always does. She's laying right behind the screen in her spot, enjoying. I'm not sure if you could see it because of the light, but enjoying the book. And Gabby's down nearby. Okay, so that's that. Have a wonderful day, little guy. Bye-bye.